Welcome to Nerd Girl Bookkeeping. Here's how to set up payroll deduction items and use them to withhold employee paid portions of benefits from their paychecks. I will cover pre and post tax benefits, including payments made to 401ks, HSAs, unions, pensions, and optional insurances. I will walk you through setting up payroll deduction items, adding additional liability accounts, and modifying employee profiles to begin the withholding. Before you get started, you will need the source document from HR breaking down the deductions for each employee. These may include both pre tax and post tax withholdings. If you are a smaller company, you probably are HR. If you don't know where to find the information, contact your policy agent or fund administrator. They should be able to provide a report showing what you need. Either way, the report needs to list participating employees and their deductions, the frequency used to determine the deduction, the provider's legal name, and the account number to use when you pay the accrued payments to them. We will need all of that for the item we are going to create. The report may list the payments as contributions, but in QuickBooks, it is a deduction from employee paychecks. Be sure the frequency of your deduction matches your payroll frequency. I will include calculations in the description section for calculating other payroll frequencies. First, you will need at least one payroll deduction item. It is highly recommended that you create an item for each benefit deduction because they can have different taxation rules and limits. A quick note before we get started, my screen may not look like yours. I am using QuickBooks in multiple windows mode and make frequent use of the top menu bar. Now let's set up a pre-tax payroll deduction item. If you only need post-tax items, go to the post-tax marker in this video. To begin with, we go up to Lists and then down to Payroll Item List. If you've used payroll before, you will probably find quite a few items in here already, but to create a new one, we go down to Payroll Item in the bottom left corner and go up to New. And then please be sure you select the Custom Setup button to make sure that we have all of the features that we need, and click Next. This screen deduction is already selected, so we don't have to do anything, and click Next. Here's where you name your deduction. Make sure that it is simple to understand and easy to remember, but doesn't get confused with other ones. For the sample that I'm doing, I'm going to use 401k employee. And then I'll click Next. This is where you put the name of the agency that administers your fund or the company the policy is with. In my example, it's ABC Plan Administration, so I select it from the list. And the number that they have provided me for when I make the payments is ABC123. And next we have the liability account. QuickBooks defaults to payroll liabilities, which is a general liability account, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with using that. But if you would like more detail for your reports or your chart of accounts, you will need to create a custom liability account. If you are not going to create a custom liability account and are going to stay with the default, go ahead and click Next and move on to the tax tracking section. Now, if you're sticking around, click the drop down arrow and scroll up to Add New. Enter an account name that makes sense for this payroll item. In my case, I'm going to have employer and employee payments into this fund. So I'm going to label it generic 401k payable. But the account name is completely up to you, of course. You can make this a sub account of the generic payroll liabilities if you'd like, but there's no requirement to do this. I'm not going to, so I uncheck that and click Save and Close, and then click Next. Here is where the important differences in taxation come in. When you click the drop-down arrow, you will be shown a long list of options for taxation of the deduction. Select the correct item from the list. For optional insurances like AFLAC, the correct selection is premium only 125. Since we are doing a 401k deduction, I'll select that from the list and click Next. Here you'll see a list of all of the taxes you have in your payroll system and which ones will be affected by this deduction. This is just for information, so click Next. This deduction is not based on quantity or hours, so I'm going to select neither. But if you do have a deduction that is based on quantity or hours, be sure to select the correct option and click Next. If the deduction does not have a standard rate for all employees, leave this box blank or zeros. If it has a flat rate for all employees, put that in here, and you'll see how that works later. If the item has an upper limit, it goes here. My example right now is the 401k, and at the time of this video, that limit was 23,500. It is an annual restart, but you can select the drop-down arrow and select monthly or one-time limit as well, based on what your deduction requires, and click Finish. You will be prompted to set up a scheduled payment for this payroll item. I'm not covering that in this video, so click OK. And there you will see your 401k employee deduction item added to your payroll item list. If you're done with creating items, skip to the Employee Center marker in this video. Otherwise, let's do a post-tax deduction. The process is the same as for pre-tax deductions, except for the tax tracking selection. Let's walk through it. Go down to the bottom left-hand corner and select Payroll Item, and up to New. Be sure to select Custom Setup so you get all the features you need, and click Next. It's a deduction which is already selected, so you don't need to do anything. Click Next. And here's where you want to make a simple but easy to remember name that isn't going to be confused with other items. This one that I'm using for this example is long-term care, and it's from Aflac. And then click Next. The agency to which you pay your premiums that you've collected goes in here. In my example, it's the same plan administrator as the pre-tax, so ABC Plan Administration is selected. The number on the report they have given me to put on my payments is ABC 123. Here's where you can select your liability account. The QuickBooks default is payroll liabilities, but it is not necessary to use this one. There's also nothing wrong with using this one. If you want to create a custom liability account that will give you more detail in your reports and on your chart of accounts, go back to the custom liability account marker in this video. For this item, I'm going to go ahead and leave it as the default and select Next. This is where you select the taxation for your item, and since we are doing a post-tax item, the taxation is none, and click Next. You will see a list of taxes in your system that would be affected by this deduction, and there's none, and click Next. Some deductions will be based on quantity or hours. This one does not happen to be that, but if your deductions that you are creating require that, make sure you select the correct one, and neither is what I'm going to select. And click Next. Some deductions are calculated based on gross or net pay. This one is not, so I leave it as gross pay so that the taxation is correct, and click Next. Unless the amount is the same for every employee, either leave this spot blank or all zeros. If your item has a limit, go ahead and enter it here. This one does not have a limit, so I'm not going to enter anything. But if I did have a limit, the amount of the limit would go here, say 15,000, and then you have the option of an annual restart, a monthly restart, or one-time limit. I'll just, for the sake of argument, do a one-time limit, and then click Finish. You will be prompted to set up a scheduled payment for this payroll item. I am not handling that in this video, so just click OK. And then you will see your long-term Aflac deduction listed in your payroll items. Now it's time to add the items to the applicable employees. Go up to the top menu and select Employees and Employee Center. My report says that Employee 1 is the only one with these benefits, so double-click Employee 1 and go to Payroll Information. And here in the Additions, Deductions, and Company Contributions box, go ahead and click in the item name and start with 401k. This is the employee portion, and the amount from the report was 125. And there you see the annual limit was automatically set up for us. If you had filled in a default amount for employees, it would have been entered here. But if it's a deduction that has varying rates, it's much safer to just leave it blank or all zeros so that you don't accidentally put the wrong amount in there. And then we're going to do the other one, which was long-term care, and that has at 106 and our $15,000 one-time limit, and click OK. Now I skipped around to payroll so that you can see where the items end up on the paycheck detail. Here's 401k employee 125. Here's long-term care Aflac at 106. You can also see them separated out over here in the summary for the same amounts, and this will also provide you with year-to-date amounts as they continue to make contributions. And that's all there is to it. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe below. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, and thank you for watching.